This is Nielsen and Elisa.
Hey, how you doing?
So, how handsome is he?
Are you handsome?
Okay.
Oh.
Not bad. Hey, Nielsen.
Hey everybody, I'm John.
I'm Jonathan.
And I'm Ethan.
And we are here to talk about a movie that has come out earlier this year. Everyone's talking about it. It's the breakout success of 2017, and that is Jordan Peele's Get Out.
Mm-hmm.
This movie has been making waves in pretty much every way a movie can. It's been making its budget back a million times over,
Sure.
and there's just a lot to talk about with this movie.
Right. Now, you guys put out a review a little while ago. Check that out now if you haven't seen it.
And there will probably be spoilers.
Oh no, absolutely. This is gonna be filled.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, for people that didn't see our review, can you give a quick consensus? In fact, I've seen it too. Let's give a quick consensus of what we thought about Get Out.
It's really good.
It's great.
It's really good.
It's really awesome.
Modern
really
day
cool.
classic.
Really cool. Really funny.
I think this is a movie people are going to remember in a long time. I think it's very creative. I think it's very thoughtful. It's just really
It's very
effective.
innovative in the way that it blends genres. I think that's the number one thing.
It's got like horror elements. It's got thriller elements.
It
It
has
has a lot of
comedy.
elements of race in it. It has comedy elements. It's just really a movie that's hard to pigeonhole and just
weird.
super creative and interesting.
Yeah, I find myself being very uncomfortable with like how fast I was able to switch between laughing at a joke and like genuinely being terrified or just being scared in general.
Hey, but that's how life is.
I mean, like I'm scared.
Jordan
I'm,
Peele understands life.
I'm
that's for
terrified right now.
sure. All right, guys. Well, we wanted to make this video today to discuss why Get Out is so important. And we're going to go ahead and just break down some points, with our first one being why it's so important for horror movies. Now, in a day where horror movies are filled with sequels and reboots, it's so nice to have something so refreshingly original. And it blends so many genres. This movie succeeds at being truly terrifying and downright hilarious at the same time.
Absolutely.
Like there were moments in the film where there's a certain side character you knew.
You
the
can
name
say
of
it. This,
right,
is, this
John?
is the spoiler
What
review.
side character?
There's spoilers,
All
so
right,
you can
so-
say it.
The main character's best friend.
Rod.
Rod in this
The
film.
TSA guy.
TSA.
He is hilarious.
Yeah.
Jordan Peele, you did a great job with that guy's dialogue. Also, the actor who plays Rod, he's great. Awesome job. But anyways, I was just really impressed, and it just showed that you don't have to make a really dark and dreary horror movie for it to be effective. This movie did have its moments where it was terrifying, but it never was at all brooding and just like a chore to watch.
Yeah.
I've actually found a lot of moments to be very subtle. One of my absolute favorite parts of the entire movie was when there was a scene of a silent auction, and you didn't. I mean, obviously, no one's gonna know unless you know about silent auctions. No one's gonna know what that was. But just this beginning of that scene where you're starting to realize what that was, and then you have the full realization of, oh my God, they're gonna auction off this guy, terrified me.
I think
It's
there
creepy.
are a handful of good horror movies every year, but even the good horror movies that come out these days tend to be not super creative all the time. They're kind of all, like you said,
They're all like callbacks.
very moody, very broody. Get a lot of 80s throwbacks.
Get Out.
But this is
Not
one
Get
of
Out. My bad.
Like,
It follows.
It follows.
follows.
Yeah.
It follows.
Two word.
I'm sorry, just the font that they use is very similar.
Yeah.
This is probably one of the best horror movies I've seen in a while. It is definitely the most creative horror movie I've seen in a long time. I think this almost kind of is emblematic of horror movies kind of getting back in their swing almost, or at least I hope that's what we get.
I
in
was
the coming
actually
years.
very surprised that they took some different routes that I would not have expected. Like towards the end when you see the police car appear,
Oh, yeah.
or the police car appear, you think
It's
like,
such a play.
I thought he was about to get
I
shot.
thought he was gonna get shot. And that would cut to black, and that would be it. But
Jordan
no.
Peele actually thought he was going to do that. I was reading about it, and that's what he was leaning more towards. And then afterwards, he's like, "No,
You know,
we
I
can't
wanna-
let it end on a bad note."
I want to make one more point about that scene, and that will lead us into our next point about what this means for black cinema and race in movies in general, is that in horror movies in general, when the cops show up, that's the general universal sign of, okay, everything's okay now.
You're totally
Okay, our
right.
hero's got
I
away.
know where you're going.
But the racial spin of this movie of a black guy with a white woman
Dead on the ground.
dead with his hands around her neck,
Oh, she totally deserved it too.
that she deserved it, but that one
the
spin
cop doesn't know that. The cop doesn't
was
know
such
that.
a creative, interesting way to put that horror movie trope on its head, and I just
Yeah.
loved it. I thought it was so ingenious.
There
I
was,
thought he was going to die.
yeah,
right there.
there was such a great moment from the audience that was in. There was a great audience participation throughout the entire movie. But I could tell everyone's collective hearts sank when they saw the red and blue flash because we
Yeah.
all knew, because we all expected it. We did not expect this really cool route that it was going to take to make us actually feel better at the end of this man's just horrible, heartbreaking journey. So it definitely gave me some
Right.
surprises, and I loved that about Get Out.
Yeah.
So, anyways, that's why it was so important for horror movies. Now let's move on to why it's important for the black cinema genre. And by that, I mean films that focus on the black audience for the most part.
Yeah.
Yeah, or try to include them in their storytelling.
And I'd
or-
say the most successful, for sure, is the Tyler Perry movies. And I don't think that's fair. That's not fair for that to be the racial stereotyped movie. Because when you think of, oh, let's just go see, when you hear people talk about black comedy, which is, I don't like that term. It automatically means, for me, that you're trying to dumb down that sort of genre by throwing Tyler Perry acting as a woman. And not to say that those movies do have their funny moments, but that shouldn't be the first thing that comes to mind when we think of black cinema. Black cinema should be respected as every other art form is. And I think not only was Get Out important this year, but also Moonlight was very successful
Very big,
in
yeah.
just breaking that stereotype. Because black cinema as a whole has so much more to offer than freaking Tyler Perry. I mean, we have Boys in the Hood, we have Straight Outta Compton,
Yeah.
we have Friday, which is actually a really underrated comedy by Ice Cube. There are so many, there's a world out there that people need to understand exists, and I think that Get Out is the perfect thing. It's the flashlight in the darkness.
I
just
think
shows
that-
what's going on.
This movie comes at an interesting time because you mentioned movies like Straight Outta Compton, Boys in the Hood. Those are good movies, but those are movies that deal with race in a way that isn't very creative and people expect.
Right,
Because
the-
you know
the
you have
gangster
movies
trope.
Right.
like, for example, 12 Years a Slave. You have a lot of movies that deal with race and are great movies and deal with it in an interesting way, but in a way that you would kind of expect,
Right,
like
like-
with slavery or like rap music.
Even The Help, which is just a black woman in a servant position, things like that.
No disrespect to any of those movies, but I think Get Out, okay. All the best horror movies, I think, take a kind of normal, everyday fear and just blow that fear up times a million, right?
Yeah, like
just take that fear to its
Lights
greatest
Out,
height.
Fear of the Dark.
Or The Shining, the fear of being in an isolated place.
Exactly.
Get Out takes that kind of everyday fear of, you know, a black guy meeting his white girlfriend's family, or,
Yeah.
you know, being the only black guy at a party or whatever,
Exactly.
and just blows that up. And in a way that's really interesting and creative.
Right. Speaking on black cinema in general, I think I mentioned this to you guys earlier that that Moonlight and Get Out tried to be more real in the sense of bringing up issues that black people might have.
For sure.
Obviously, I can't speak, but you mentioned even the simplest situation of being the only black guy at a party, all the way to what are the problems a gay black man will have in the black community with something like Moonlight. And just bringing those subtle things up from Get Out to Moonlight, I think if we keep focusing on that, it's really going to enrich black cinema, and I would love to see where it goes from there.
And we're coming off of last year's Oscars, everyone going crazy
Right.
about there being no black nominees except for The Weeknd for 50 Shades of Grey. Everyone, hashtag Oscars so white was everywhere.
Well, that was the year before,
That was the year before?
2015.
Yeah, you're right.
2015. Still, I think it's relevant.
I also want to talk about what this means for the career, or the future career, of Jordan Peele.
Mm-hmm.
He's definitely come off a hot streak now.
Yeah.
He's getting a lot of buzz. I'm sure there are a lot of people that want to hire him to write scripts.
He was the first African American to make $100 million off of a written and directed movie by himself.
First
right?
writer director, yeah.
Yeah,
Which
so
is-
that's
it's great.
incredible.
It's fantastic. And I think this guy has some serious talent. I wasn't sure how I felt about Keanu, so when that came out last year, but this is just such a big change for him.
It's actually a super big, like, radical difference if you look at something like Keanu. Did he direct that, really?
I don't think so.
I don't think he directed
Okay.
it. I'm just talking about his involvement in a film.
Okay, well, if you look at
Yeah.
something like Keanu and then you look at something like Get Out, I would never have guessed that they were made by or involved with the same people that made Keanu. But I'm still super excited for whatever projects he has in the future. I know there was an interview with him that he said he was going to make more films about tackling these social issues or these taboos, or at least something of this nature. And I think at least 4 were planned. So we can guess and speculate as to what those will be about.
And I'm looking forward to those
Right.
so much because one thing I loved about Get Out was that it wasn't really preachy or anything. You know, I was kind of afraid going into it would be shoving some tortured metaphor down our throat, but it still explored the issue while still being interesting and subtle. And I'm just so looking forward to what Jordan Peele does with other movies in that same vein.
It kind of just like exposed just the issue there. It just exposed the problem that one person would face in a huge sea of problems happening on the
I
world.
agree. So overall, guys, I thought that Get Out was a fantastic film. I'm glad that we got a chance to talk to you about some of the reasons why it's so relevant in today's society, as well as just the film industry as a whole. So before we wrap up, guys, do you have anything to say about this or any last thoughts?
I think Get Out is a super, super memorable movie. I think this is a movie people are going to be talking about in 25 years as still being something that was
I agree.
relevant for cinema as a whole, for getting horror movies back on an upswing, and for getting African American people more kind of a more solid place.
Hopefully
in
the
Hollywood.
turning point. I hope that this continues.
I definitely think so.
Yeah, I hope this starts the trend. Like I said, I want to see those 4 other movies that Jordan Peele does about social taboos, and if they're anything close to as good as Get Out, I will be there opening day.
All right.
Absolutely. Guys, I'm Jonathan.
I'm Ethan.
And I'm John.
Have a great evening.